So, this is a topic that is an ever-changing topic for us. As you had said, Bobby and I, we've been in this industry for 27 years, got involved because we really needed to replace Bobby's income. And I wanted time freedom to raise our kids. So we had really big needs, wants at that point, but we had to learn how to do the business. And that's what's so important is we really need to know how to get the conversation started. And for us, with our very first company, a lot of it after a while learned to be on the phone. And so we had to get better phone skills. But what we've noticed with this company is not only do you have social media, but there is a way that you can get around people. And that's really what I want to talk about is what we've been doing a lot of since we joined this company, because obviously we're doing business a little bit different than we did with our very first company. And so, for us, it's important to be around people that we can share our opportunity with. But what we've learned in the 2 short years is there are ways that we can ensure success with this. And there are things we do before we necessarily start to talk to people. So I truly, truly believe you can get anybody you want in this business. It all has to do with your approach towards those people and, how you talk to them, how you get around them. And so, these are just some few tips that we've been using. Anybody that is local to us knows that since starting LifeVantage, Bobby and I have made a point of it when we go out to dinner, and it's just the 2 of us, all the boys are gone now, the last year or so in particular. And so when we go out to dinner, we never ask for a table anymore. We always sit at the bar. And in fact, we choose our restaurants based on the bar and the people that are actually having dinner at that bar, as opposed to maybe so much the food or the specials or the type of food. We want to be around people. We love this industry. We have loved what it's done for us this 27 years, the time freedom, the ability to travel when we want, the money that we've earned, and we love just sharing that with people. So I want to take you to what we do. Like I said, we'll sit at the bar, and there's so much we do before we actually even start that conversation that's important. We just, last weekend was Bobby's birthday, and so, we could have gone to any restaurant we wanted. We could have had a table and had a good old time, but we continued to do what we've been doing. We went to a bar and we actually sat, and I'll kind of take you through that story and many stories like that. But this is actually how we've been building our business over and above maybe doing some social media and stuff. So, I find in this business, a lot of times people are either throwing up on people. And by that, I mean, I'll give you an example. Years ago, you know how excited you are after, going to convention or you go into a seminar and you've spent 1, 2, 3, 4 days with people that are super excited about your business. You've learned a lot about your business and you just really can't understand why everybody isn't doing this business. But then you go sit on an airplane or you're headed home somewhere, you're talking to your best friend who isn't in the business, and you just start throwing up on that person. So we had been in Dallas, and this is back when the kids were home. And Bobby and I always, up until it was such a habit, like the last year, would take that 6 a.m. flight out every morning. It was the very first flight out to get home to our kids. We've since stopped doing that. There's no need to rush home. But what we found after being at a seminar for a few days, one of our other people that was with us got on a plane with us and, happened to be sitting right behind where Bobby and I are. So I don't know about you, but, in order to catch a 6 a.m. flight, a lot of times you're up by 3, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. And so when you get on that plane, all you want to do is go back to sleep, hopefully. Hopefully the pilot doesn't mention anything. They turn the lights down. The stewardess don't say anything. But this gentleman was so excited, and rightly so, from our convention, that he sat in that seat and he just went through everything about our business, the products, the comp plan. In fact, he was doing a total comp plan before that plane even took off. And the gentleman next to him, he wanted to do nothing other than go to sleep. So that's what I mean by somebody that's just talking, but they're not being receptive or respectful of what the other person actually wants. The other type is they're paralyzed by the business. They're so afraid that they might say the wrong thing, they may do the wrong thing. And so they're in business, but nobody even knows they're in business. They just keep it all to themselves, just thinking, I'm going to mess this up. And you know, you've heard Bobby and I say, you really can't mess this up. When you're excited and you start talking to people, particularly when you're brand new, you got to remember, excitement is what sells. It's harder for the person that has the knowledge and been in the business for a while. The person's brand new and excited. People want that excitement. They don't even know what you're saying. They don't care what you're saying. They just want what you have if you're truly excited. So I want to talk about how we actually get to start the conversation. And all of that is really what's going to determine the results you get. So you know this, we've talked about this, you've heard this before, nothing new. How we start the conversation, who we talk to, it's really our responsibility. And I know social media is big, but you got to be doing it all. You got to be talking to the people you know, because their lives are changing. They're changing quickly. You know, they may be losing their job. They may not be able to, maybe they've aged out of whatever industry. Maybe their industry is closed. Maybe their life has changed. Maybe they've gone through a divorce. Maybe kids have left the house. There's so much going on with people that we really don't know. Things can look really good from the outside, but not really always sure what's going on behind those doors. And that would have been Bobby and I. When we first got involved in this industry, Bobby asked. He asked to go to a meeting. Nobody, I promise you, nobody had any idea what was going on behind our doors, because we were very proud people and we were going to work through it. And we were going to figure it out. Social media is big, but I don't believe it's the only way you should be building your business. It absolutely is not. It's a part of it. It's a piece of it. And then you have the cold market. And that's kind of a little bit more what I'm going to allude to today, is how to get around those people, those like-minded people, those people that are like you, those people you want to build the business with, the people that are fun to be around. And we're going to show you how to actually go about creating that today. So I'm so excited about this. But you know, what there are to me is 3 magic words. And if we do nothing else, and I hope you agree with me, if I can get you today to get to the point where people say to you, yes, I want to start the business. Do you think you could take it from there? I think most everyone could. How do you do the business? You know, you definitely could take it from there. And then if they said, me, I want this. I want to do this. You know, so those to me are the 3 magic words. And it's kind of like, you know, I know we're a baseball family. Gabe uses the analogy in a lot of his trainings, but, you know, I think if we can get you to the plate and somebody says yes or how or me, I think we got to hit. We're definitely on the right track and we've got it started. And so that's where I want to go to today. But before we ask the questions, and I don't know if you know this, and this has become very clear to us, you know, as Bobby and I are going out, and I'm thinking back to last Friday night, and we're sitting at this bar and it's his birthday, and nobody, you know, to the right or left, we kind of pick our seat based on who's to the right and who's to the left. And hopefully there are people there. And ideally we'd love the whole bar to be full and there'd just be 2 seats next to one another, which doesn't always happen. But, you know, you can kind of gauge on the time that you go out. So we're sitting there, and the people to the right of us, it becomes very evident to us that we don't want to do business with them. In fact, Bobby leans over and he says, do not talk to them. He doesn't like them right away. But to the left is a lady and 2 other ladies, and you can tell they don't really know one another. But the lady to the left is just really sweet, really nice, very courteous to the wait staff, you know, to the bartender. You can just tell she's good people. So we want to get to know her right away. And I'm going to take you through our journey on how we actually got to her. But the big thing here is we didn't get into a whole business conversation as we went to this. We created that rapport so that we got enough information from her that we can continue to have a conversation. We created that friendship that I was able to send her information on the business. And isn't that all we would really want from being out? I mean, I think our time overlapping maybe was 45 minutes, maybe at best. And, you know, a lot of that we did things before we actually got to have that conversation. I think our conversation was probably maybe only about 10 minutes at that point. But there's a lot that goes on before you actually start that conversation. And this is what's so critically important, because people decide in the blink of an eye, just like that, those two ladies to the right of us, they decide very quickly whether they like you or not. And I've watched this for years. My husband is amazing. He'll wear like a jet shirt and people will just come up to him, and, you know, his jet shirt just creates rapport. It's to the point where, you know, he's a he's a big football fan as well. And, you know, he's bought me these jet shirts, and I forget I'll have one on. If I have a t-shirt on and I run out somewhere and it happens to have jets and somebody says something to me, I'm kind of like, oh, you know, I'm not the big fan he is, but he's had a lot of conversations because that shirt for him, even though we're in Florida, Jets are New York, creates a lot of rapport very, very quickly. So people size you up, and only 7% of it is based on our words, is based on our questioning. So long before I open my mouth and long before I ask them a question about our business, they've already sized up whether they like us or not. So 93% is going to be the work that we actually do before we ask the question, you know, if they're interested in our business or not. So what do you do before you speak? You know, the first thing you do, and what we do and what's become really clear to us as we're sitting at that bar is, you know, I'm watching the lady there, and it was perfectly set up because I could easily watch her because she was there. There was, I think, 2 seats in between. Bobby was there, but I was on the other side of Bobby. So I was the furthest from the lady. So when I talked to Bobby, I needed to face kind of towards him to have a conversation, but I could see what she was doing. So watching her posture, you know, how she sits up, how she handles herself, you know, just like I said, how she speaks to the bartender. That's all important to us because I needed to decide, is that somebody that we even want to engage with? Do we want to even have a conversation with her? Or is she like the ladies to the right that were just, they weren't nice. We just really didn't want to have a conversation with them. And a lot of it was based on their posture. It was based on the way they dressed. And it just cemented it based on the way that they spoke to the bartender. So posture is very important. Somebody that's sitting up, that is confident, you know, maybe has their legs crossed right, the clothes that they wear. Women really, they observe all this, consciously or unconsciously. Women take in clothes amazingly. I've had more people say, our conversations have started because I really like that sweater you've got on, or I like that purse or that bracelet or whatever. Very, very important. Women, you know, are very conscious of that. I think women are very visual, so that's why it's so important based on the way that we're dressed and what we're wearing. So, but all this is posture. And we're taking all this in and we're going, I like her. I don't like her. And so, you know, posture is important. Gesturing is important. You know, I always think of Italian people, and nothing against them, absolutely love them, but they use their hands a lot. They gesture a lot. And a lot of times they'll even apologize. They'll say, I have a girlfriend that does this occasionally. She's Italian. And she goes, I'm so sorry. I'm Italian. And she uses her hands. They're all over the place. And she's just gesturing. But, you know, you're either attracted to that or you're not attracted to that. So, you know, if the other person is doing a lot of gesturing, then you want to do it. But if they're not, you don't want to do it. So if they're very refined and they're sitting there with their hands in their lap, that's more the attitude you want to take. You know, if they're at a bar and she's fingering her wine glass, you want to finger your wine glass. When she takes a drink, you don't want to do it so deliberate, but you do want to be aware of her posture, her gesturing, or his, whatever. The tone of their voice, you know, very important. The speed. I know Bobby always says I talk too fast, but, you know, for me, I'm a New Yorker, and it's really hard to take that New Yorker out of me. And the thing is, I can have a conversation with a New Yorker regardless of where we are. In fact, a lot of people will come up to me and they'll say, you're from New York. We're in New York. And that can start a whole conversation. We, you know, again, getting back to a baseball story, we had been down in Miami watching our youngest play. And very, very hot. Not only was it the middle of summer, very hot. Baseball fields generally have no shade. It's hot, you bring an umbrella, you're sweating the whole time you're watching your kid. But there was one tree at this field. And if you know anything about baseball, you sit on the side of your team that your kid's playing on, and then there's the other side. Well, this other team happened to be a team down from New York. And I kind of broke the rule. I sat on the other side. There probably were about 15 of us under this one little tree with 3 leaves. I mean, really no shade. but I enjoyed it because it was easy for me to talk to them. I didn't have to think about it. They talked fast. They were probably louder. The tone was there. The accent, I don't think it's an accent, but you know, the accent was there. So it was, and I thought about it after we left. I stayed because it was easy for me to have a conversation. But why was it easy? It was easy because they gestured like me. They had the tone, they had the speed, and they had the volume that I liked. And so I liked them right away. And so again, if you're talking to somebody, and I've had to be aware of this being down in the South, I may have to slow down what I'm saying, give more time in between, make sure that they're getting what I'm saying, maybe some slang. The first mentor we had, you know, in this industry had a very Tennessee accent. And he used to make reference to things like, he'd say like, every now and then a blind hog finds an acorn. I still don't know what that means till this day, but you know, that was something he said a lot. So, and his accent was very hard for me to follow because it was a very strong Tennessee accent, and he would speak slow. And so my mind would go through 7, 8 things before he even got his sentence in, and then he'd repeat it 3 times. Well, that was a challenge for me to learn to as much as I wanted to. So you can see why we're attracted. And maybe you've had that teacher that you went through school with, and every once in a while you get a teacher that just maybe based on the way they look, the way they talk, the way they act, you can't get past it. And it's because you didn't warm up to them. It was because of their posture, their gesturing, their tone, their volume. So we're going to reverse this. So if I want that person, and let's say, you know, I don't know them personally, but I know of them, or I've heard a part of a conversation that they're involved with a group or friends that I want to get involved in this business, I'm going to change my posture. I'm going to either be more active with my hands, less active. My tone will change. The speed of which I talk will change, and the volume will change. So that person is more attracted to me. The other thing that is of concern too, once you start talking to people, is proximity. If you ever notice some people get really in your face, and that's generally the person that, not to me, has bad breath or whatever, but you know, I have a dear friend that I play tennis with. I really like her. She's the sweetest lady. But for her to have a conversation, she needs to literally be like nose to nose, which is not my thing. My proximity is, I like my 3-foot rule. I like people a distance, you know. And so if you're having a conversation with somebody and you see them either pull their head back or you see them turn right to left, they're uncomfortable with the proximity of which you are, and you need to do something about that. You either need to step back more, or if you see they lean their face in, you need to step closer. Maybe they've got a hearing problem. These are all things that are going to make or break the conversation, because people can't enjoy a conversation if all of these things aren't right. The other thing that can be is the breathing. You know, you can take this as more of a personal thing, but you know, in order to connect with people, the breathing, you either want to slow your breathing down or you want to speed it up. And it's kind of a more of an intimate thing, but you know, you can see this, you can practice this with your kids or anybody you hug or spouse that you're sleeping with or whatever. People are more, they like you more, they're more intimate with you when the breathing is the same. You know, if you've got somebody that's really panting hard, you just don't get into a conversation. So you got to kind of keep that breathing. Women will recognize this, and they already know this if it isn't very obvious to them. But you know, when we have our cycle, that time of the month, I grew up in a family where, you know, 3 girls and my mom, and we all had this cycle at the same time. If I go on a tennis retreat, you know, I'd find that it'd come early or it'd be delayed. So, you know, people get in sync with people. And that's what I'm trying to say about this is people get in sync with people, and it's not even a conscious thing. It's not something that we actually even have control of. It just happens naturally. So there are things we could do to accelerate this so that people like us right away. And so now that you've created this physical rapport, there are questions you can ask. And going back to that bar and sitting with that lady, you know, Bobby did a great thing. Again, very aware of our conversation. I'm leaning over Bobby to try to talk to her. And she, luckily, somebody come along and asked if they could have another seat on the other side of her. So she's moved 1 seat closer, but he all of a sudden has to go to the bathroom, which is a really cool thing. It was so smart because as soon as he was out of his seat, I moved over and was able to have the conversation with the lady. But we'd already done some smiling and stuff. And so there were things going on that we kind of knew we liked one another. And that conversation started with, you know, are you local? Do you live in the area? Of course she did. We live there too. We know the area well. You know, our whole conversation, we got her contact information and I sent her information on our company. But it's funny because while Bobby was at the bathroom, he's like, well, what did you tell her about the business? Do you know I never told her anything about the business? She had mentioned that she had recently gone through a procedure, and I had a friend that had gone through that procedure, and we talked a little about that procedure, but I never said to her that I was going to send her LifeVantage products or Protandim or NRF2 or oxidation or any of that. I just said, I may have some stuff that may be of interest to you. And I let the video do the work instead of me trying to explain in a loud bar what oxidative stress is to a person that may or may not know it. So, but more importantly is I got her contact information. So I can continue to reach out to her. I can continue, you've heard us use this term before. I can continue to drip on her at any time I want because I got her contact information, as opposed to had I gone through this whole thing of oxidative stress and she said, I'm not interested. Maybe she's not interested today. Maybe the timing was bad. Maybe she's already thinking about the drive home, which she was. There could have been so many other things that today, right now, this minute, maybe that wasn't as big a concern as I might have thought it had been. But the fact that I got her contact information means we can stay in contact forever. So, you know, one of the things that you do when you do start a conversation with people is we want to get them to say those 3 magic words, you know, yes, how, and me. Those are, and so these are some questions as if it gets to that point. And notice how I haven't at any point, we used to use the term absolutes. I haven't given her an absolute in any of these. I'm just trying to get her permission to share more. So you can ask somebody, would it be okay if you worked from home more? Maybe you've just had a conversation about kids and you know this stuff, but the way that you phrase these questions to get the answer you want will allow you to move forward. You know, would it be okay if you'd like more time with your spouse and kids? This can be a tricky one. Some people, you know, Bobby and I are very fortunate. We'd have it no other way than to work together, but some people don't want to work with their spouse. Maybe they want to get away from their kids or whatever. So, you know, be careful with that. You know, would it be okay if you could double your income or replace your income or make extra money? These are all those types of questions that you'll get people to say yes to. What about the negative people? We all have them. They go on, oh, I'm so sick. I'm so tired of work. I hate my life. I hate my friends. I hate my house, hate my car. They just don't like anything. You know, let them talk and then just simply ask them, would you like to do something about that? Yes. You know, now they've given you permission. And, you know, it's kind of a thing where if they say yes, they can't really go back and say no, like, I didn't really mean that. Like, I've just said how horrible my job is for the last 15 minutes. I've asked you to like to do something about that. You're not going to, the very next sentence, say, oh, I really do like my job. It really is an okay job. So you've got them to a point where you want to get them. You know, what do you do for a living? You know, it is politically correct if you ask somebody what they do for a living, for them to ask, the response back should be, well, what do you do for a living? And so this is a question you need to be comfortable with, you need to be prepared with, because when you're starting to meet people, it's very natural, particularly for the guys, for you to say, you know, what do you do for a living? So, you know, here we have to find questions that we're comfortable with. I'm on my way to making my fortune. People say, well, how is that? You know, I'm teaching people how to take advantage of trends and have a global business. Well, tell me more. How? You know, how's that going on? I'm teaching people how to create time freedom. These are all questions that people will ask. How? I guess you want to always make sure that you end it so that people are going to continue the conversation and not be so deliberate in the fact that I'm, you know, in network marketing or social selling or something that they may know what it is. You want to make sure that they're asking you the next question so that you can go on with them. You know, if you're more comfortable with the products, and we have great products, and I do more product talking with this company than I ever did with our other company. It was just all opportunity based, but you know, you can, if you're more comfortable with our products, nothing wrong with starting there, because we've seen how we can take a really happy consumer and make them into a distributor very easily. But you know, I'm working on making the world a healthier place, or I'm teaching people how to have extra energy or how to live longer. And people will say, well, how? Tell me more. So, you just want to get them to these three questions. To these three answers. This has always been a favorite of mine. Love this. And you can do this anywhere you are. We've just started a brand new company. I didn't say the company was new. I said we started. We started a new company. Do you know anyone else that might be interested in being first? And my husband is king at this because he is so good at this third-party stuff. He does really good at leaving you out, you personally out without you even realizing it. Then you're like, me, whatever it is, I want him. So he does so great at doing that third party thing where he's talking about other people and not really you. So you feel very comfortable with saying, well, what about me? I could do this. Do you know anybody that like to drive a Jeep for free? Do you know anyone that would, like to travel, go to Cancun for free, likes to travel for free? People are like me, because again, we know people do not get, most people, we take it for granted in this industry, but most people do not get to travel the way they would like to. They very rarely travel. And so for them, their top 1, 2, or 3 wish list, usually it's the number 1, is they would love to travel more. They would love to see more of the world. So, you create rapport, you ask the question, and then you listen. And we have story after story after story where we have created that rapport with that person, nonverbal rapport. That person has decided they like us based on something we're wearing, the tone of our voice, the speed of our voice, before we even get to asking those questions. Because if that person likes you, they'll hang out with you, they'll spend more time with you, they'll learn more about your business. And more importantly, they'll get involved in your business, regardless of whether they were looking for a business or not, if they like hanging out with you. If they don't like hanging out with you, you're not going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter how good you are at the questions. And I think that is the thing that I really had to learn. I had to learn that more importantly than what I say, that having the right question was all that work beforehand. And like I said, we've become so much better at this because we've continually gone out, we've sat at a bar, we've met people, we opened more conversations. Bobby did it. I was out shopping the other day. He came with me and he's sitting in the chair outside of the waiting room. I tend to pick more matronly clothes, so he helps me there. And he's sitting there, but there's another gentleman sitting there too, waiting for his wife to try on some things. And they get into a great conversation. And he's been on something like, it was either 23 or 32 cruises in the last year or so. And he's done very, very well for himself. And he would just, him and Bobby had an absolute amazing conversation. And the time it took me to try on a few things, knew that him and his wife had met in the 8th grade and they were able to change contact information. And so then when I came out, the guy said to Bobby, he said, I can't wait to get the information you're going to send me. I so enjoyed talking to you. And isn't that what we all want, so that we can all feel really, really great about our business? I truly, truly believe that you can get anyone you want in this business just by thinking about it a little bit, you know, asking, creating that physical rapport, and then asking the right questions. And once that person loves you, it's golden. It's, you know, you'll go the whole way. So with that, Gabe, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I hope that was helpful for everyone.
Ooh, was it helpful? Are you kidding me? What a great topic.